Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to IPDAE's Webinar Wednesdays. It's Ron Cruz, IPDAE facilitator. Unfortunately, June cannot open up our webinar for today, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up for everyone. Again, welcome, and we really appreciate you sharing your precious afternoon time to tune in into this webinar and learn about our upcoming fall regional workshops that we'll be conducting throughout the state of Florida. Before we begin, I want to go over certain housekeeping with everyone. Please understand that we are on a webinar mode, so your mics are automatically be muted and you will only be on listen mode. If you have any questions, feel free to click on the Q&A tab and type in your answer or your question on the Q&A bar. And throughout the webinar, I will be responding to these questions as we go along. Today's presentation is being recorded, and it will be archived and available in the IPDAE website within 48 hours. Without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. And again, my name is Ron Cruz. I am a coordinator here in Hillsborough County, Tampa, Florida, and I'm also a statewide trainer for IPDAE and national trainer for GED testing service. I just wanted to give you a heads up that this upcoming fall regional workshops that we're hosting all over the state is going to be virtual, something that we have never done before in terms of a regional type workshop, but we have lots of things packed for you in this workshop. Also another difference with this is that the participants are strategically selected by each of the host sites, and therefore there is only very limited seats for every particular location. Because of our setting being on a virtual setting, we want to make sure that we provide sufficient attention to all the attendees. So as much as we want to have 100 participants in the webinar or in the regional workshop, we cannot do that. We want to make sure that we have the right amount of people and key persons in each school district, state college to participate. All of the materials are going to be distributed digitally. All of the pre-workshop materials as well will be distributed to you as it gets closer to the date of your scheduled webinar or regional workshop. So if you want to know, these are the locations that are going to be hosting the regional workshops. So we're going to be going to Pensacola State College. We're going to go to Hillsborough County Schools in Tampa. We're going to go to Pinellas County Schools in St. Pete or Seminole. And we're going to have a combination or a tag team between Orange County and Osceola County. We're going to have one in Collier County in Naples. We're also going to host one in Broward County and another huge one in Miami-Dade County. And last but not the least, we're also hosting one between a tag team of Seminole and Indian River State Colleges. Please keep in mind that if you are a teacher or a professional that is outside these school districts, feel free to reach out to the leadership of these county schools to see if you can get some of your people to attend. Please keep in mind that we are currently collecting the list of attendees and the signups for these workshops so that we can send the invitation directly to the teacher as we get closer to the event. So there's several dates. The dates are not posted online. The host site will be the ones that are going to let you know the particular date that they are hosting the webinar. But what I can tell you is that we're going to start hosting these webinars for the month of October, and we'll go through the month of December. So you have a 3-month span where we're going to cover all of these areas in the state of Florida. Well, another thing that's going to be different, I mean, I know we've done surveys in the past prior to the workshop because we want the data to drive the content of the workshop. This year, we're going to take a different route in our implementation of a data-driven survey. What we're going to do now is we're going to measure the level of proficiency and comfort level and the level of knowledge that people that are going to be attending the workshop, and then compare that after they've completed all of the workshop activities. So there is going to be a pre-workshop survey that all participants will have to complete, and that will be emailed to these participants directly from IPDAE. So just to give you a brief look on that survey, it's going to be a SurveyMonkey survey, and it's composed of, I think, about 7 questions. And again, the setup is there's no right or wrong answer. We just want the best response that would fit your current level of knowledge, comfort, and expertise in areas that we are going to be covering in the workshop. So just to give you an example, one of the topics that we're going to be covering is the new Florida's best standards. So we want to know how much do you already know about the standards and how the workshop will help you understand a little bit more about how the standards have been developed and what are the different changes that the best standards are pushing forth and all the other highlights of those new standards. We're also going to be covering a whole bunch of information with regards to integrated education and training, or IET. So we really suggest that we include some career technical education people to attend these workshops, especially the ones that you are targeting for integrated education and training implementation in your district or state college. So let's take a brief look at what the topics that are going to be covered in the workshop. There are 5 major topics that are going to be covered, and they're all centered around one central theme, which is the best standards. So the best standards is going to be the driving force for the topics that we've selected. And those 4 topics are going to be complementing or giving you a strategy on how to implement the standards. So there are 4. So let's start with contextualizing instruction, followed by project-based learning, which is another strategy to implement the standards. And then we're going to cover 2 very important initiatives of our state, which is integrated education and training, which is part of what is written into law under WIOA, or Workforce Innovations and Opportunities Act. And then I'm really, really excited to cover this entrepreneurship skills with you, because one of the things that we're pushing for is to have districts and state colleges integrate entrepreneurship skills in adult education. So how can we do all of these things? How can we help improve contextualized instruction, and how to reinforce that using project-based learning centered around completing or accomplishing your IET goals and your entrepreneurship skills? So this is how we designed and structured and organized the workshop for you. So I'm very, very excited to really host these workshops with you, because we've got some really good topics that you can really apply into your daily instruction. Moving on, I wanted to give you some things that you might want to expect on this upcoming workshop. So just like I told you, the Florida's Best Standard will sit at the core of this workshop. So we're going to go over that. But we also understand that at different parts of Florida, we're at different stages of implementation or different modalities for implementing adult education instruction. Some of you may be in a completely virtual setting. Some of you may be in a completely face-to-face setting, or some of you are in a hybrid or a combination of face-to-face and virtual instruction. So we are packed our workshop with remote learning strategies that will complement the face-to-face strategies that we are going to be discussing throughout the workshop. We're also going to talk about strategies for implementing integrated education and training, and lots of templates that's going to help you plan and develop a curriculum for your integrated education and training. We're also going to cover entrepreneurship skills, just like I told you, and we've got lots of strategies, activities, and even templates to share with you that you can immediately use. And you can find these templates like, oh, I can do this. I can insert this into any lesson pretty much. And those are really what I'm very excited to share with you on this upcoming workshop. Project-based learning is another thing that we're trying to push for, because we know that there are lots of adult education teachers that are also part of the K-12 system. So they may be a full-time K-12 teacher during the day, and then at night or in the weekends, they're an adult education teacher. They may be already familiar with the project-based learning, which is a very important strategy in a K-12 setting. Now, how does project-based learning strategy look like in adult education? So we're going to talk about those, give you some examples, and talk about some tips and tricks on how to promote and make your project-based learning activity a success. And last but not the least, this is really what another thing that I'm really excited about, is we're going to talk about how you're going to find contextualized content, because that's one of the hardest things. It's like, oh yeah, you want me to integrate career technical skills and entrepreneurship skills into my daily instruction, but what types of material and content can I use in my classroom so I can successfully do this? So we're going to walk you through steps on how to find contextualized content, because a lot of this is already at your fingertips for some of you that are already working at or working in collaboration with your career and technical colleges. So like I said, we're going to cover some very important and really powerful remote learning strategies to help teachers who are still in the virtual setting or in a hybrid setting. So we're going to share with you some of the how to effectively use the different features of your video conferencing software, such as chat, nonverbal cues, sharing files, how to manage your participants well, how to use annotations to your advantage rather than be a nuisance. The whiteboard screen, we're going to talk about how to create a poll and how to conduct a poll. We're going to talk about breakout rooms and how you can effectively use breakout rooms to really engage your students and promote collaboration. And last but not the least, we're going to talk about some active response systems that you can use in conjunction with your video conferencing software in order to, again, promote engagement and also to assess students' knowledge. We really broke this down into something that's slightly different from what we've done in the past. In the past, we usually do a full 6-hour face-to-face workshop with 30 to 60-minute break in between for lunch. This time, we allowed a little bit less of really lecture type or presentation type activity, but we built in a transfer of learning where participants can independently work together and apply the knowledge that we've discussed in these sessions. So this workshop is divided into 2 major sessions, session 1 and session 2. Certain topics will be covered in session 1, and other topics will be covered in session 2. Each of the sessions will last for 2 hours. And then there's going to be a transfer of learning assignment, or things that's going to be assigned for the participants to do in between the sessions 1 and 2. And what we're really counting on is really for teachers and other participants to draw on their experience and knowledge of their subject matter and apply it to the skills and strategies that we're presenting in this workshop. What we're trying to do is to allow for more reflection. And because it is 2 sessions of 2-hour blocks, it allows all of our host side to even do 2 different days of sessions, so that it's not eating up a full day of every teacher's time. And they can squeeze in that 2 hours either in before everything starts, during the lunch hours, or at the end of the day, where teachers can participate now and not have to worry about preparing for materials for classes that they're going to miss because they're participating in this workshop. So we really wanted to allow some flexibility on the part of the host to be able to structure a good and more appropriate schedule for the workshop. We built in plenty of time for you to apply your learning and to reflect. There's also an option to even spread the dates apart from each other, where there is an opportunity for teachers to at least apply the skills in their classroom, and then come back and we'll have a more meaningful discussion as to how the strategy worked, or how did you tweak the strategy. So let me talk about a little bit on this transfer of learning activity that we're inserting in the middle of sessions 1 and 2. This transfer of learning activity is going to focus on the application of what you've learned in contextualizing instruction and integrated education and training, because this forms the crust, and there's a lot of moving parts and components that we have to cover in the integrated education and training. A lot of the learning is going to really come from you digging very deep into your own curriculum and collaborating with another teacher in order to build in contextualized content to support your integrated education and training program. But wait, there's more. So here's what we're going to provide, because IPDAE believes, IPDAE does not believe, I should say, IPDAE does not believe on one-shot training. So even if you don't have the opportunity to either participate in the workshop, or you're only able to attend one of the 2 sessions, because that happens sometimes. So therefore, or you had to leave early, or you need more time to understand the information, because a lot can be packed in 2-hour sessions and people can get overwhelmed. So what we've done is we provided ongoing support, and we broke it down, not really broke down, but we're really diving it in to each of the components of the workshop and building in more webinar hours so that you can continually learn the topics and skills that we've covered in the workshop. For example, this pre-workshop webinar is really already preparing you for your participation on what's to come and what to expect, and really going to condition you on what to learn and make a decision whether this is really the right workshop for you. So there is going to be, not next week, but on October 14th, I'm also going to cover how to develop single set of learning objectives, which aligns with integrated education and training, one of the biggest components of implementing integrated in education and training at your school site or at your college. We are also going to do an additional hour of webinar support for project-based learning. And then, because entrepreneurship is so huge, there's so many components to it, we are going to host 2 entrepreneurship and innovation webinars, and I think this is going to be towards December, to really build upon what you've already learned in the regional workshop. And last but not the least, for everybody that participated in the series of webinars and in the workshop itself, there is a post-workshop follow-up that we're going to invite everyone to. So let's have a brief taste of what we're going to cover in the regional workshop. So we're, just like I said, this is very new, hot off the press, best standards for adult education. And this only applies to the K-12. So they've developed the standards for mathematics and language arts. What really is going to happen is that in the workshop, because the adult education version and alignment to the best standards has not been completed yet, we're still in the process of working through that. We will not have the best standards for adult education ready, but a lot of the blueprint of that work is already embedded in the K-12 standards. So therefore, I want you to give I want to give you a little brief note here that we will not have the adult education standards until the springtime or maybe even later. But rest assured, there is going to be a separate set of regional workshops that's just strictly going to focus on the best standards. And for me, I'm calling it the spring training for us teachers because it'll be very, very fresh for us. But you can already start looking into what is in the current K-12 best standards so that you can see, okay, what is to expect on the adult education. I'm also very excited to talk about the highly qualified, very enthusiastic, and highly motivated team of facilitators that we put together who is going to facilitate these regional workshops. From Miami-Dade County, we have Anthonysia Jackson, or AJ. From Pinellas County, we have Ann Morgan. From Broward County, we have Brian Bush. From Collier County, we have Christine Briggs. And from Orange County, we have Vanessa Nicholson. This is our team of facilitators that's going to be helping us learn all of the material that we have to cover during the regional workshops and throughout the year with these supportive webinars. There are several digital resources that we're going to be sharing with you. There's going to be a gold mine. This is going to be your go-to location for any resource IET, any resource entrepreneurship. So we're even thinking about creating separate channels or even separate locations and areas for these 2 largely huge initiatives in the IPDAE website. All of the videos, the templates, the PowerPoint, the workbook, and even your portal account will have all of the information and materials needed to successfully implement all the 4 strategies that we're going to cover. So let's again do a quick content preview. The overarching theme, although it is the best standards, is really contextualizing instruction. That's like the underlying theme that's going to be manifested in all of the 4 sections or the 2 sections of the workshop. Think of contextualized instruction as somewhat this visual that you see in here. So you see that you have on one side, you have your content, the content material that you have to teach, right? So you've got your standards, you've got information from your textbook, a collection of text, collection of worksheets, handouts, videos, whatsoever. So you have all your content in one side. And then the students, on the other hand, they have their own set of things or resources that they're coming to you with. Most of the time, these will include their prior knowledge about the material, however, however much it is, okay, their current level of expertise and their current level of skills, and most importantly, their experience. Now, those are two separate worlds. Your students' experiences and backgrounds and skills, and your skills and your set of resources and materials and your content. Those are two separate worlds. When those two worlds meet and you can find the commonality between your students' interests, your students' background and prior knowledge, and the content that you're sharing with them, you're hitting a very sweet spot. And if you're able to do that, that's really the manifestation of contextualized instruction. This, to me, is a perfect definition on how we really contextualize instruction in the classroom. We try to find something that is beneficial for the student, that aligns to the student's career or academic goals. And we find content that aligns to that. And we teach the skills and the standards through that content. You're going to get the most optimum level of relevance in the material that you're teaching and the content and skill that you're teaching. And you're going to get the most level of interest and engagement from your student if you contextualize your instruction. Keep in mind that if you're teaching something completely alien to your students that they have no way of connecting with, it's always very difficult to reach and get that content materials through. So it's really an art and a skill for us teachers to find that sweet spot, the balance and the alignment between the students' goals, their experience, their learning style, all of those things that the students bring along, with all of the things that we have to teach and our resources to the standards. We are going to cover contextualizing instruction in very great depth during the workshop. So I'm really very excited to share with you a lot of these things. So here's a little bit of how contextualized instruction happens if you're looking into the career and technical skills side. So on one hand, you have adult education, right? So basic skills, GED, ESOL, all of that is on one side, right? And then you've got your technical programs, housed under technical colleges and state colleges, okay? So that's another separate world. But if you're trying to do is to try to bridge the gap and really point a direct connection with the material that you're trying to teach from adult basic education and feeding those students into the career technical skills, what you have is a solid contextualized instruction under career technical education. And when you do something like that, that's really the essence of integrated education and training. So more on integrated education and training will come when we go into not next week, but in a couple weeks webinar where we're going to dive into developing the single set of learning objectives and also the regional workshops. Now let's think of contextualized instruction in entrepreneurship. Now, not all of our students are going to go into a technical program. Not all of our students are going to enter the workforce, or are not even, maybe it's because of skills. Sometimes it's because of interest. They're not willing to work for anyone. They want to make their own, they want to start their own business. They want to start their own enterprise. We want to provide equal opportunity for those students as well that are sitting in our adult basic education classrooms. So now, when you try to integrate your adult skills or basic skills in adult education with entrepreneurship skills, what you're trying to do is just really trying to help the students reach their ultimate goal quicker. Please keep in mind that, first of all, entrepreneurship is an entire college course, by the way, or college program that you're going to go into. And a lot of our students don't have the resources to go into college, or to even get into that. So, but you don't really need, I've had, I've been a teacher for 14 years, and I've had several of my students in ESOL that started their own business and are now very successful and are very prominent members of the chambers of commerce in Tampa. And I always see them in a lot of the publications that I read. And I was like, oh my God, this student has already built their own enterprise, and I'm very, very proud. It makes me really proud. And I wish I could have gotten them closer to that goal quicker had I been integrating some entrepreneurship skills in my program. Integrating entrepreneurship skills, when you go and jump into our workshop, you'll find out that it's not very difficult. And some of you are already doing it. You just need to really emphasize those skills and tease out those nuances in entrepreneurship. And of course, harness the skills that's really going to help them start up their own business. Now let's talk about all three. So you've got adult basic skills, okay? You've got your career technical skills and your CTE programs. And then you've got your entrepreneurship skills that is, again, a separate 4-year college course or program, right? So all these three together, right? And they're all separate pots, okay? Each one requiring its own separate set of resources to get into. So really and truly, the setup, how it is set up right now, is really preventing every, a student from participating, because it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go into adult ed for 3 years, or maybe even 2 if I try really hard, get my GED program, and then apply for technical skills. Maybe I'll get in, maybe I won't get in because they have their own set of requirements. And maybe after that, really, I'm getting my skills, not because I want to work for someone, but I wanted to start my own plumbing company or my AC business. Then I'll have to go and learn entrepreneurship. That's a long way. There's so many steps along the way. What if we can interweave all of these together and ensure that once the students exit the adult education program, that they can seamlessly and quickly integrate into the career technical program they want, or if they choose to, go straight into entrepreneurship skills or go straight into starting their own business. So really and truly, what we're going to present to you in this upcoming regional workshop is how to tie all of these components together, where the teacher can now tie all of these things into one and seamlessly embed this into your regular instruction and see all of your students really super engaged, because you're really hitting the sweet spot of what they want to do and what they want to accomplish in adult basic skills or in adult education. Because really and truly, adult education is not the end result. It is really the beginning of the student's journey to achieve their economic success. So I'm going to pause right here, because this is a good stopping time now that I've covered contextualized instruction and the underlying theme of the workshop with you. And I want to see what you think. What are your thoughts about contextualized instruction? What are your successes in contextualized instruction? Have you tried to tie in other areas or fields into your adult-based education teaching that have been fruitful and has been very successful? Now, if you also have any questions, feel free to type it into the Q&A tab. I'm going to go into the Q&A and see some of the responses here, or the questions. So I have here a comment from one of our participants. I was very happy to hear you say you work with the GED program. Today, my supervisor asked me to help with teaching language arts to our students. I work in the prison system and have very limited resources. So she wants some help in locating curriculum, classroom activities that align with the GED. Of course, we've got everything here in front of you. And we even have, we will have lots of resources for you, the ones that I'm describing right now, okay? These resources that you're going to take away from these regional workshops are going to be easily integrated into whatever GED or ABE or ESOL program that you're teaching in, okay? Keep in mind that this webinar also comes with a participant workbook. So when you go into the IPDAE website, and I'm going to exit this PowerPoint presentation to show you the IPDAE website. If you go into the IPDAE website, you're going to go into the, I think the event calendar. Yes. No, not the event calendar. You're going to go back to home. I'm sorry. And I think we put this under adult basic education. If you go under webinars, right there, gearing up for contextualized instruction and project-based learning. If you click on that, which is the title of this webinar, we have a workbook that comes along with this. And I also included a handout that's going to be a really good pre-reading activity for everyone that's going to be participating in the next series of webinars, and for everyone that's going to be participating in the virtual regional workshop. Those are all available here. So all you got to do is click on this, and and we've got a workbook that contains lots of resources already for you, even before jumping into the regional workshop. So please check out that handout, and and feel free to peruse through and look at all of the wealth of resources we've shared on that. Now, let me just backtrack a little bit and talk about why. Why are we doing all of these? Why did we target the best standards? Why did we select contextualized instruction? Why are we putting emphasis on entrepreneurship skills and integrated education and training? Well, it really is really stated and outlined in our unified state plan. For those of you that are new to adult education or who are unfamiliar with the unified state plan, it's a plan that the Department of Education wrote and developed that will really guide all of the adult education and family literacy programs throughout the state. Really, this is what's going to, it spells out the direction that we have to go, and it also delineates how our resources, the resources that we're receiving from the department, how should they be utilized? So what we want to do in this regional workshop is to allow the districts, technical colleges, and state colleges to have all of the resources and strategies and support for implementing the Unified State Plan. So what are the things that are included in the Unified State Plan? So the Unified State Plan, of course, the first and foremost thing that is mentioned there is the Florida's Best Standards. So our goal for this year is really to have an alignment, the alignment for the best standards completed, and develop our own set of adult education standard aligned to the best standards. We also have, of course, workforce preparation activities, which is outlined in all of our curriculum frameworks. Entrepreneurship skills is tied into that. Integrated education and training is a category on its own. Career pathways is a category on its own, even though we're not covering career pathways in the workshop. We are actually threading along the essence of career pathway, because now you're clarifying the way the students have to go and really giving your students the skill and the motivation to either move into career technical programs and or start their own business. We know the state that our students are in now. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and there's several of our students that have lost their employment during the pandemic and are having a difficult time reintegrating back into the workforce. What are we going to do as adult educators to help our students? This is one of the methods that we're going to explain to you in the upcoming regional workshop, is how you can really help those students that are really struggling to put food at the table, that they are trying their very best to come to your adult education class, balance, their work life, their work and their life and schooling, okay, to learn from you and to get the skills necessary. So what we want to make sure is through these topics that we're covering, that you are being the best teacher you can be, and you are equipped with sufficient tools, training, and skills in order to ensure a greater level of success for your students, whether it may be reintegrating back into the workforce or even start a new business. Right now, during the pandemic, you have no idea, we've lost 1 out of 5 small business. Okay, well, I've heard lately it's 1 out of 6, but it's fluctuating. It's a good percentage of small business now that have closed. Well, who's going to replace that, right? So what we wanted to do is to motivate our students, give them the skills, the knowledge, the techniques, and the mindset, because some of them might be, now is the prime opportunity for them to start a new business, okay? And what we're going to give you in this webinar or in this regional workshop is all of the tools you need as a teacher to really propel your students towards that goal and help them in their economic recovery. And in addition to that, help the entire local community recover economically. We're going to talk about the best standards. We're going to talk about the language arts and mathematics standards. For some of you who do not know what BEST stands for, BEST stands for Benchmarks for Excellent Student Teaching. What I really, really like about these benchmarks or these standards is it's developed by Florida teachers, okay? It has the input of Florida stakeholders, which makes this our own. We can call these standards our very, very own. And we are breaking ground in terms of education. So I'm very, very excited to cover and talk about the highlights, the direction as to which adult education is going to go through in the alignment process. So really a lot of that to come in the regional workshop and in the upcoming webinars that we're going to be hosting here on IPDAE. Just to give you a brief highlights, this slide will show you what has gone through, okay? What is this standards for? Why did we have to develop our own set of standards, okay? What it does is to bridge the gaps, fill in the holes of the Common Core state standards, It's a good set of standards, Common Core or adult, college and career readiness standards, but it's not perfect. So, and it's not fully 100% appropriate for our state, because we have our own goals, we have our own initiatives, we have our own demographic, we have our own economic makeup that we're trying to promote. So really and truly, our own set of standards would really promote and propel Florida to be in the top performing states throughout the nation with these standards. In this slide, it will talk about, just outlines key differences between the Florida standards and the BEST standards. And keep in mind, the Florida standards were adopted from the Common Core state standards. So really and truly, once we get the alignment once we get the aligned standards to adult education, a lot of things are going to change in the adult education world. The curriculum will change. The instruction will change. With regards to assessment, we already got we already have a set of assessment and standardized. So we really have to meet and marry the changes brought about with the BEST standards, capitalize on the benefits of the BEST standards, and make sure, and I can guarantee you it would definitely align, that we're still hitting the standards that are assessed in our standardized assessments, whether it be CASAS, TABE, or GED. So here's what to expect. We're going to explain to you the rationale for the best standards, a pretty much brief timeline. We're going to really explain how is this standard shifting, what are the changes, and then what are the principles that guide to the development of the standards, because unless you understand those, you're not going to understand and learn how to implement those standards. And then we're going to excite you a little bit more with what all of these things have to brag about. So language arts has its own bragging rights, and then mathematics has its own level of, or its own set of bragging rights. So it's more to come. We're going to cover that. Under project-based learning, we're going to cover, of course, the definition of project-based instruction, okay? Think of it as, how should I say? So think of it, I mean, I like food. And so let me know if these desserts are, the dessert looks good to you and the main course looks good to you. But what I wanted to show you, I want to use food to compare project-based learning, which is simply doing whatever project you want in your class, or what, you know, the normal projects that you normally do. Please keep in mind that project-based learning is a method where the students gain knowledge, and it's a project for an extended period of time, which requires a little bit of investigation, responding to authentic and engaging content. And there's like that complex driving question that's really directing the course and the pace of the project. And it must, you know, or it could be a challenge. There's something, a challenge or a specific issue in the community that students are very vested in. So what we're going to teach you in the regional workshop is how can you tease out these interests and issues and problems, solve these problems in the community, and learn the basic skills at the same time. That's really marrying and trying to get more concrete with what you're trying to teach, rather than teaching linear algebra and functions on one side and then having them solve word problems. Why not use their knowledge of functions into solving certain things in the community, or arguing a certain point, or communicating a certain stance that's going to help the community understand what's going on in, you know, what's going on in a particular case. So the difference between a regular project that you would normally do in class or normally would assign to your students, those are what we call dessert type projects. You know, they usually come at the end of of your lesson. You know, we've covered all of these topics, let's apply these topics by doing a project. You know, you just like a dessert, it's something that's really sweet and fun. It's a one-shot thing, right? What project-based learning is different from a dessert project. Think of it more like a main course where there's several pieces into it. You know, you've got your fruits and veggies, I mean, and then you've got your side item, then you've got your entree part in there. And then it's really complex, you know, rather than the dessert, you know. So, and I'm not saying there's no dessert out there that's very complex. You know, now there's lots of desserts, and even the one that I'm looking at right now, or you're looking at right now, looks very complex to me. It's got several layers in it. But what I'm saying more is that the main course is really at the core of the meal, meaning it's where it's what you're waiting for. It's what you prepared for using your appetizer. It's really what you're capping off using your dessert. So it's really the core of the meal. And that's what project-based learning is when you devise the activity and the project to happen simultaneously with the learning that your students are having. It's not strictly based to assess your students' knowledge or to concretize the students' knowledge, just like a regular dessert project would be. So in the workshop, we're going to cover how to really structure or even take on a regular project and turn it into a project-based learning and make it more appropriate for adults. We're going to cover definition, design elements. We're going to even talk about what teaching practices are very, very successful in implementing project-based learning. We're going to talk about how you're going to design, how you're going to start with. We're going to give you several starting points on what good projects can be implemented, which ones are good for ESOL, which ones are good for GED, which ones are good for ABE. And then we're going to go into integrated education and training, which really is integrating your ABE, adult basic education, GED prep skills with occupational skills and devising a single set of learning objectives, which we're going to cover in the next couple of weeks. In the workshop, we're going to cover what it is, why we're doing integrated education and training. We'll talk about different types of implementation of IET. How can you as a teacher get started with an IET and make your students, ensure the success that your students will definitely integrate into the career technical programs with success. We'll talk about identifying what basic skills to integrate with IET. And then the most important part is finding contextualized content. And keep in mind that in a couple of weeks, we're going to cover developing single set of learning objectives. Last but not the least, entrepreneurship skills. I'm just going to talk about what just entrepreneurship is in general. Entrepreneurship is the activity of setting up a business or businesses, taking on a financial risk, of course, in the hope of making a profit. And that's really the ultimate goal, is to help the students become more profitable, become more economically stable, right? And capitalizing on the skills they already have and the relationships and the attitude that they have. So really what we're going to cover here is how you can start building that mindset with your students. How can you start planting the seeds of entrepreneurship, and how you can continually cultivate qualities of a good entrepreneur. Qualities such as self-discipline, integrity, persistence, a clear set of direction, and decisive and action-oriented. Aren't these the skills you want to have your students? I mean, you want your students to have anyway, regardless whether they whether they want to be an entrepreneur or not. These are some skills and attitudes that I really, or qualities, I should say, that I want all my students to apply or to have. What we're going to do in the regional workshop is going to teach you how you can seamlessly integrate these qualities and promote or build these qualities within your students. At the same time, teaching the content that you're supposed to teach. What to expect? I'm going to go over in greater depth a broader definition of what entrepreneurship is, why entrepreneurship is important, and how what's it gonna, what's in it for you as a teacher, what's in it for your students. We're gonna go over that in greater detail. We're gonna talk about different types of entrepreneurship, even going in and give you an activity, a sample activity where you can do your class that will help your students generate their own idea for their own business. We're going to go over how to build a business model and how to start a small business enterprise in the state of Florida. What are those paperworks and stuff? And again, last but not the least, looking for that contextualized content that's going to promote these entrepreneurship skills. So as part of the regional workshop, everybody is going to be sent a pre-reading workshop assignment just to kind of prepare them for what's to come, because there's a lot of material that we cannot cover in 2 hours and 2 blocks. So what we want all of the participants is to start reading through. You don't have to be really fully expert on the reading material that we're going to give you, but we just wanted to give you a brief taste of what's to come and what we're going to be promoting in the workshop. So the pre-reading assignment is already included in the IPDAE website that I mentioned to you. When you go into, again, to your IPDAE website, go into Adult Basic Education channel right here. Click on Webinars. Look for Gearing Up for Contextualized Instruction and Project-Based Learning. And at the bottom, the last handout is your reading assignment. Like I said, you don't really have to be an expert on it. You just need to have enough background knowledge about IET and IET programs so that when we jump into developing single set of learning objectives, you would have enough and sufficient prior knowledge in order to do that. What I'm going to also do is I'm going to, I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to put it in the chat. I am going to put the link to download the material directly. So you can go to your chat and click on the link that I just sent you, and that'll lead you straight into that document, download it and save it into your drive, and start reading through it in preparation for the webinar. I think I can, yeah, that's the chat is the best place I can do that. I cannot do that on the Q&A tab. So you're gonna have to look for the chat and go into more and go to chat, and then you're gonna see a link that I sent and posted in there. Now we do want you to answer certain questions though, so as you go through, these are some things that are really important for us, important that we will be activating at the beginning of the workshop. I want you to understand and figure out the difference between the two different types of integrated education and training implementation. I want to understand the different components and aspects of what IET, what's important with the components of IET to make it really successful, okay? And then last but not the least, we have given, the readings that you have will give you some examples of how IET is being implemented in different states, in different districts and colleges. We want you to take a look at those and read some of those on what they're doing and see which one you like. Okay, so we're now at the end of this webinar. What I want everybody to do is, if you have any questions, feel free to put it on the Q&A tab. But I want to give everybody kind of like an exit ticket. So you can use the Q&A tab or the chat, doesn't matter. But I want to give you an exit ticket, just like a teaching strategy that I use in my virtual class. So what I want you to do is at least complete one of the prompts below, okay? So I'm going to give you 3 prompts. I want you to complete it. Let me know. But you're going to have to type the prompt together with your completion, okay? So for example, in the chat or in the Q&A, you can say, today I learned, or I would like to learn more about. We wanted to see which ones is really piquing your interest as we move further into these regional workshops. And if you have any questions about today's session, please feel free to type it in. So that's going to be your exit ticket before we launch you into our evaluation survey. So please take a moment to type it into the Q&A bar or the chat if there's something that you learned today or something that you want to learn more about. Or if you have any question, feel free to do that, and that's the moment that you have right now. Yes, so I see that there's some questions here with regards to collaborative teaching and how can that be done. So we can talk, really, if you jump into the examples of implementation on the handout that I provided or that pre-reading exercise, you would already get some ideas from how other states and other districts or other colleges are doing in terms of collaborative teaching. We're also going to show you some of those in the workshop as well. Here's an additional one. Thank you. Keep them coming. Project-based learning is so good. What I like about project-based learning is that it has a lot, it has a bit of a front load of work. But once you get that front load done, everything's cakewalk. You know, it's really the activity that's teaching the student. And I find myself less stressed out and trying to figure out the content. Students are trying to figure it out themselves. They're solving problems that are authentic and relevant to them. So it's not, I don't have any problem with that. And then me as a teacher can just jump in and help and supplement that learning that's happening while they're conducting their project-based learning. Somebody wants to learn more about contextualized instruction with small cohorts of students. That's really super interesting. You can do it. So once we provide you with the contextualization techniques in the workshop and in the upcoming webinars, you're going to really find out that you can easily adapt to it and really use it right away and apply it to your students. You'll be like, why haven't not been using this all along? There are some people that want to learn more about how to going into business themselves. Yes, how to get the money. That's really what the thing is like, okay, I want to start my own business. I have a great idea, but I don't have the capital. How do you get those? There's many ways you can gain, even if you do not have resources. There are many ways to start gathering resources in order to fund your business. We're going to cover that. Somebody would like to learn about, yes, pblworks.org is the website. That's the central hub for project-based learning. So guys, if you're seeing that, I'm gonna copy it and send it to everyone as well, just so you get that website. So paste, okay. That's the website that I just received, that central hub for project-based learning. I'm going to reshare the link to the handout for the pre-reading exercise. So that's 2 links coming from me onto the chat. Sorry, I was sending it to myself when I did it the first time, or only to the panelists when I did it the first time. Yes, we have we have somebody here that's more interested on the virtual learning strategies. We've got plenty of that. Yes, somebody, in our participant group is already doing some entrepreneurship, here and there. Now we're going to have a little bit more structure we're going to have a little bit more structure in implementing that. You're going to be a little bit more strategic on when to integrate those into your daily instruction. We will really cover that. Okay, so somebody's asking what the BEST standards stand for. B is benchmarks for, E is excellent, S is student, T is thinking. Benchmark for excellent, student, T thinking. They would like to learn more about project-based. So I'm seeing a lot of things here. Keep those questions coming and there's feedback coming, because what we're going to do is if we've stumbled upon a really good comment or a question, we're going to respond to you directly through email. Right now, thank you for those things that are coming along. Please keep them coming. What we're going to do now is we're going to release you into a quick survey, and it's going to pop up in front of your screen. And what I'd like for you to do is please respond to the survey questions very briefly, 4 to 5 seconds. And then we're going to close the survey when you're done so that we can get your feedback about this, because we really value your feedback into developing further, more webinars in the future. Let me give you a brief moment for you to complete that. And while you're doing that, I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for sticking in for the hour of this webinar and trying to learn a little bit more about what we're going to cover in the regional workshop, and a precursor to all of the series of workshop that IPDAE is going to roll out. for the rest of this calendar year. There's lots to come, and I'm very excited. With that said, I wanted to say thank you and have a great afternoon. See you in our next webinar.